Hey everyone, how's it going? How is your Sunday going? Or if you're listening to this podcast on Monday, how's your Monday going? Or if it's Tuesday, then I hope you're having a great Tuesday. Or whichever day of the week you're listening to this podcast on, hope it's a great day. My name's Paul, and this is the JIuJitsu podcast. Before we get started, I want to say one more thank you to the band Waves Overhead. Waves Overhead is a band based out of my home state of Maryland in the United States, and they are killing it, in my opinion. They're doing great things for the pop punk industry in Maryland, and they were kind enough to let me use their music as the intro and outro of this podcast. So you're about to hear the song To Make Amends in just a moment, and hope you like it. And I'll play the full song at the end of the podcast so you can hear the whole song. That was my cat in the background. He likes them too. And if you want to go ahead and support them, go to bandcamp.com/wavesoverhead, and the link will be on our show notes and our website and Facebook and wherever else you find this podcast. So please go there and support them and give them some love, financial love, spiritual love, all those things. So once again, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it. My guest today is Anton Garcia. Anton is an instructor at Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Maryland with locations in Columbia and Finksburg, Maryland. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Maryland is the academy that I first started at when I kind of started getting really serious about jiu-jitsu. They're a really great school, a House and Gracie affiliate. The owner of the school, Mike Stewart, has been on the show before, and Stephen Miller is one of the other instructors at their academy, and he's been on the show as well. So you can check out those episodes at trekjitsu.com or iTunes or Stitcher, but really great information in those. And Anton Garcia is another one of the instructors at the school. Anton primarily focuses on women's only classes at the moment, and I was really excited to talk to him about his strategies and his thoughts for teaching those classes. I think they're really underdeveloped in a lot of jiu-jitsu academies that I've been to. And I think that Gracie Maryland has a really great program for women. So I was really excited to talk to Anton about all of that. And in this podcast, we kind of got into that a little bit, but then we went into jiu-jitsu philosophy, jiu-jitsu lifestyle, and all sorts of things. So I really hope you guys enjoy the show. Please welcome Anton Garcia. Welcome, everyone, to JIuJitsu, and welcome to Anton. It's great to have you on the show, man. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, thank you very much for having me, man.
You're killing it. You're killing it as the instructor for these women's only classes. I see all these posts on Facebook, and I'm like, man, Anton has gone from a young Padawan like me to a true Sith master. How does it feel? How does it feel like you starting out as a student at an academy, and then now you are something of an instructor at the academy where you began?
Yeah, it was definitely a surprise. An instructor or helping out with the women's class. It started out with me coming in when they first started the program. They did a month free trial for everyone to just come in and try it out, see if they like it. And of course, someone who's trained, I brought people in from my life to try the classes, to try to get them in. And while they were doing the classes, one of my training partners, I'm sure you know him, Richard Gray, we would just drill in the back and just do all that. So I was there every Saturday for a while. And then, just through being there and talking to Jen, She found out about my training from Gracie Academy affiliate from my old school, and then transitioning from that into the Helson school that we're in now. So she just kind of asked me a lot of questions about details, how to teach things a little better, and yeah, from then I just started coming in, helping on just Saturdays for the women's class, and then one day, I believe it was February or March, Mike Stewart put out a post saying that he was in need of a part-time instructor, and I was all over that. So I sent him a message. He called me, I think the day after. We chatted for a little bit, and yeah, that was that.
That's awesome. What's it been like teaching at the academy?
As far as the women's class, man, it's definitely my favorite part, and I love helping out with the women's class because for me, it's one of the greatest contributions that Jiu-Jitsu has to offer the world. I'm definitely honored to be a part of it. I grew up with a younger sister, my mom. I have a big extended family with a lot of female cousins. My brother and his wife have a 7-year-old daughter, my niece, who I'm very close to. So I have a lot of women in my life, and I'm definitely very protective of them. I connect with women, I believe, easier. And, one of the scariest things in the world to think about when you have loved ones, and especially female loved ones, is, the thought of them being hurt or getting into situations they don't want to be in, being taken advantage of sexually, exploited, and all that. So, teaching, being involved in this program where we give these women, the tools they need to defend themselves, to, just recognize situations and get out of certain situations and, just avoid them altogether. Yeah, it's great. I always think about this one quote. If you give someone a fish, you feed him for a day, and if you teach that person how to fish, he can feed himself for the rest of his life. So, I really take that into the women's class. To see, to give them different things here and there, and just to see them grow, see them, be more confident in their movements, and just ask questions and get the answer to their questions. That's definitely an amazing experience for me.
That's awesome. I'm really glad that you're doing this. I think that you are the ideal person to teach a women's only class because, like you said, you seem like your heart's in the right place. You are a warm and welcoming individual, and you are not gonna intimidate people. I've seen a lot of women's only classes where it seems like it would be very intimidating, and I've talked to people who have gone through some of those programs, and it seems like they were intimidated, and it's a shame because, like you said, it's so important. And I feel like in a lot of businesses, it's a program that's kind of tacked on at the end when it has so much potential.
Yeah. So, yeah, the great thing about it is the main instructor, Jen, of course, she's someone who really brings out the best in the program. She's someone who's been through real life situations, that she can talk about and really connect to. The women really see that, and she's of course passionate about it. And she's a great instructor because she's also a great student. She's always willing to ask help from our black belts, our brown belts, purple belts. Anyone that's higher ranked than her. She'll say, hey, I want to go through this with the women's class. Teach me how to do this. Your way of doing this, or teach me a better way to show them this. What kind of details can I give? And she understands the gravity of the situation. So it's a very serious topic. So she communicates that very well, but at the same time, she's also very charismatic. So she kind of gets it into a lighter situation too, where we can still laugh about it. We joke around here and there, but never really missing the point that, this is a very real situation.
Yeah, that's awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I try to definitely, even though I'm higher ranked than her, I give her the lead. It's her class, and I think that's one thing that helps us really have good chemistry in the class. So that I don't take over, and she always knows when to ask me, hey, do you have anything to add, or what did was that good, or anything else? And if I do, then I'll just inject my little perspective, or another way of thinking about the move, or another way of finishing the move. Yeah. So it works really well.
It sounds like a really good dynamic that you guys have going on. I asked Mike Stewart this question when he was on the podcast several episodes ago, trekjitsu.com for that episode. But one of the things I asked him was like, how does he treat beginners when they enter the academy? And I want to ask you the same question. So let's imagine, it's a normal night. You did not hear that there was going to be a new person coming to women's only class. And then someone new shows up, or maybe one or two, or, however many new people show up. What do you do with them on their very first day, very first interaction you've had with them at the academy? What does their first day of training look like? Yeah,
so I think that's one thing that our school does exceptionally well.
I agree.
I've seen Steven do it many times, and I've been through that process because I was a new student coming from another school. But yeah, the main thing we do is when they come in, we introduce ourselves, ask them their names, why they're here, and just try to give them a general idea of what the class structure is and what we offer, and we ask them what they're looking for. And kind of just get a good measure of what they want, and then show them around. Like a couple of weeks ago, we had someone come in, and a really nice guy, and it's very important for me and for all of us to have that new person feel very comfortable. As you all know, if you've never trained before, jiu-jitsu can kind of be intimidating when you see these guys, wrestling and throwing each other around and all that, and choking each other. So, we're all about smiles. We introduce people. I took that new student straight to Mike Johnson. Introduced him to him, and Mike's always smiling. Shook his hand, and just told him about what we're gonna do in this class, and it was great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think making them feel very welcome and safe is important. A lot of people get intimidated, like you said. And the thing that I've learned is that a lot of the things that happen in a jiu-jitsu school that we don't consider intimidating, normal people find very intimidating.
Definitely.
And
definitely.
Yeah. It's important to understand what those things are.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, even some academies like footlocks are a big one that I see. People start doing a basic footlock, and to me, I'm like, that's just normal jiu-jitsu. Right. That's what you do. But people are like, wait, you're gonna attack my feet? You're gonna try to break my ankle? For some reason, that's it's extra intimidating. And I don't know, it's things like that just where I've learned I need to rein myself in if I want to bring new people to whatever school I'm at,
Right. Yeah. And I mean, even normal things that that seem so normal to us, like a hip toss. When someone walks in off of the street and you see someone getting thrown, onto the mat like that, and you hear that loud break fall, they don't know what's getting broken there. They think that they're getting the wind knocked out of them or whatever. But that's why it's really important to let them know that the very main thing is that we're all about your safety. We're not here to beat you up or show you that we're better than you. We're all about growth and showing you what we know so that you can have it for yourself.
Yeah, I think that you guys do a really great job of that. One time I remember Mike telling a new person when they walked into the school, he said, "You are the most dangerous person on the mats right now. Everyone needs to be scared of you because you're the one most likely to cause an injury." and you're most likely to injure yourself. So he was like, just calm down and, relax as best as you can. And I thought that was great advice. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, these days, we try, for people with no experience, we kind of have them just watch their first day as far as the rolling.
Mhm.
I mean, for the drilling, the warm-ups, they're all, they're a part of that. But especially with fight sim, when we have the gloves on and we're hitting each other, it's pretty easy for someone that's new to spaz out and, accidentally hit someone really hard in the face or, just crash down on them and try to choke them out as hard as they can. So, yeah, it's at least good to get a few classes in to just see how controlled the students are, so that they can emulate that, or at least see that it's not an actual fight, but it's getting ready for a fight.
Yeah, exactly. It's very important, and I really like the Fight Sim program. I just did one recently, not like actual Fight Sim class, but it was at an open mat. Me and my training partner, Christian, we put on the gloves, and he beat the crap out of me. It was great. And but I was remembered like this is something I need to do. I haven't done it in a while, and it's very different. It's something that people don't do. How often do you guys do things like Fight Sim at the women's only class?
The women's only class, we've done it so far just a few times. We're really trying to get them comfortable in their movements first. Like I said, for a lot of, especially women, it can be very intimidating just to even get these new, the pressure, the contact, it's very new for a lot of them. So want to just at least get them comfortable with that before we start putting gloves on. And we've done a few drills where I have the gloves on and I'll throw a slow simulated punch and they'll wall in or go for the clinch, go for the takedown.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I've shown them me and Jen going through a simulated fight sim drill, where I have the gloves on and I'm trying to attack her, and we go through the stages of the guard and her sweeping me, submitting, so just to show them what we want them to be able to achieve later on, and it's inspiring for them too, because they see Jen, she's a blue belt, very legit blue belt, and they can see what they can achieve. The more classes they do, the harder they train, and the more they come in.
For those people who might not know, what is a Fight Sim class? Like, what do you guys try to achieve during that?
So a Fight Sim class is, at the very basic, I believe, at the very base level of a Fight Sim class is, we have one street fighting opponent, someone with gloves, a striking opponent, versus someone who knows jiu-jitsu, right? So we want to be able to practice our jiu-jitsu to neutralize someone who's exclusively trying to knock you out, right? So in that sense, we're able to practice our clinches, our level changes, our distance management, just everything that you learn as a white belt, self-defense wise, controlling them while on the ground while they're trying to hit you, making sure you're punch safe if you're on the bottom. It's a very, very, very good thing to drill, I believe. And, of course, the more you do it and the higher rank you are, some people will start mixing striking with jiu-jitsu. So both people know jiu-jitsu and both people know how to strike.
Yeah.
So then, it kind of, if you think about it, is pretty much just an MMA a match, but not really, not hardcore, of course, but just really situational drilling for a fight.
Yeah. Something I don't do enough of these days.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I should send. I recorded it. I recorded when I did the Fight Sim the other day that I just mentioned. I should send it to Mike Stewart and Mike Johnson so they can laugh at it.
Yeah.
Be like, this guy hasn't been keeping up on his self-defense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something I think you have to. It's a skill, right? So
yeah.
Just the same as wearing the gi and wearing no gi, or going to no gi class is very different. And a lot of people will say, I think I'm better in no gi than no gi. Or I'm better at no gi than gi, or I'm better and gi, in the gi than in no gi. It's kind of the same thing with, striking and no striking. I think it's very easy to see that it's a different distance you fight in. Mm-hmm. It's a very different pace when striking's involved,
The consequences are so much greater. If you mess something up when striking is involved, that's it. Like if you get mounted, that could be it. Whereas in a normal fight, a normal jiu-jitsu situation, if you get mounted, you're like, oh well, I'll just escape, no big deal, or unless they're very good at keeping you there. But when their strikes are involved, you definitely pay the penalty anytime you mess something up, whether it be a takedown or this or that, and it's so much more tiring. Because you're getting hit in the stomach, you're getting hit in the face. It's great. I need to do more of it. But how often do you guys do fight sim class at the academy these days? Like how many days a week?
So we're shooting for twice a week. I believe there was a post not too long ago where we definitely do it every Thursday. Mike Johnson runs the class. He does a great fight sim class, and we've seen ever since we started doing it on Thursdays, man, those classes are just full. Everybody loves the class.
That's great.
So we're trying to get it Thursdays and I believe Saturdays as well.
Oh, okay.
We have an hour and a half on Saturdays, so I think towards the tail end of it will be mostly just fight sim stuff. But in addition to what you were saying. From a self-defense or from a fighting aspect, it's important too to feel the possibility of punches so you don't freeze, I think a lot of people, when they're not used to it, and they feel that first punch, they're so surprised that they stop moving. They're just so surprised that they got hit. I think some people, they train jiu-jitsu so much and they kind of have this feeling of, man, if I get into a fight, I'm not going to get hit. I'm going to take that person down, control him and submit him, but like Mike Johnson, Mike Stewart, everyone says, when you're going to fight, you're going to get hit, and it's a part of it. You're not invincible, you're not perfect, and you need to get ready for that. You need to be prepared for that, so that when you get hit, you're not so surprised and frozen that you keep getting hit. It's a part of the process. You just keep moving, keep surviving, get into a better position, and finish the fight.
Yeah, and the only way to do that is through repetition and through having it happen to you and drilling it and so on and so forth. And it's great. It's a really great system. Another thing I wanted to ask you about was the Holland Gracie seminar yesterday. Do you say his name Halen or Holland?
It's Holland.
Holland.
Gracie.
That's what I thought. Sorry, Holland, if you're listening. Mm-hmm. He's probably like, that motherfucker messed up my name. Holland Gracie. So you went to the seminar with him yesterday. What was that like? What did he focus on?
Man, he was a good, cool instructor to learn from, man. Very humble, very knowledgeable, very patient. So we started off with some drills, the standing drills, just closing the distance from someone who's jabbing, throwing a straight, throwing a hook, getting the clinch from there. And then takedowns, and then we did some guard passing from a striking opponent, and then some more competition-based guard passing. Yeah, it was some cool stuff, man. He was definitely a good guy to learn from.
That's really cool that he kind of mixed it up with both self-defense being part of it and then kind of transitioning into quote-unquote sport jiu-jitsu towards the end. What specifically, like, were there any key details that he showed? I mean, I don't want you to give him away, like, all his secrets, but were there any, like, key details he showed that really stuck out to you?
Yeah, man, there was one thing that really changed it for me, and I even asked him about it while he was teaching. There's a little detail he does from the rear clinch. If you remember, when we grip for the rear clinch, it's was it an
S grip?
An S grip? Yeah, an S grip, but we do it kind of horizontally.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he teaches us to do it vertically, and I didn't get that. He didn't say that when he was showing it to us. I just saw his hands, and I noticed that, and I was telling myself, man, that looks a little different. I wonder why he's doing that. So I asked him that, and he says, yeah. I definitely know what you're talking about. He knows the regular S grip, like the horizontally, but he found that when he did it vertically, it was so much tighter. He was able to get a lot more pressure, and he showed me the difference. And you could definitely tell it was a much tighter grip, a lot more pressure on the hip.
I feel like that also makes it harder for them to Kimura you, because that's kind of the counter to the S grip from the rear clinch, is they get you in the Kimura because you're right. Like, for example, I'm trying to explain for those who just have audio, which is 99.9% of people listening to this, everyone except for you and I.
Right.
So, like, you have the rear clinch, and let's say I'm attacking from the right side, then my right hand would be underneath my left hand, and the counter would be to Kimura my left hand. I think I'm explaining that right. Maybe I fucked that up. And it's pretty easy because you just push the left hand off the S grip, and it's pretty easy to finish. But if you turn it like you just said, that makes it a lot harder. So man, that's pretty cool. That's a cool detail.
Yeah, Tony said the same thing actually when I asked him about that.
Like Tony had seen it before?
No. Yesterday after I asked Holland about it, Tony was there in the seminar too, and I brought it up to him, and he said the same thing. It's a good Kimura prevention.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that. That's a good detail, because every time I get Kimura'd.
Yeah, and have someone try it to you too. You'll see a difference in the pressure. It's kind of it's really uncomfortable. Like, whereas the regular rear clinch with that S grip is still a good clinch, but that when you turn it like that, man, it's just it's a lot more uncomfortable, I felt.
That's awesome. I'm gonna try that. That's good. Watch it. All my training partners who are listening, it's coming your way. Improved back clinch. Just kidding. I never get to that position on them anyway. They just heel hook me. Who am I kidding? I'm not getting that rear clinch on anyone these days. But anyway, that's awesome. That's really cool. You mentioned before the podcast that he had a really cool energy about him. Like, you really liked his personality.
Yeah, there's something about it, man. And I always tell people that aren't in jiu-jitsu, or even people that are in jiu-jitsu, man, you'll meet some of the happiest, just lighthearted, peaceful people in jiu-jitsu. And Holland is a great example of that. There's just something about him, man. He was so calm, like so welcoming, man. And after the seminar, you could kind of just feel like he got a good feeling of everyone, and just a good vibe, man. It was awesome.
It's one thing I've noticed as well. People who live the jiu-jitsu lifestyle, as we like to say, but live it fully. None of this like 9-to-5 bullshit that they've got going on. People who have managed to escape the trap and pursue jiu-jitsu full time, they seem happy with their choice.
Yeah, and I think when you had Dean Lister on recently, he kind of touched on it. That proverbial matrix that people talk about, and a lot of people that are fully into the jiu-jitsu lifestyle, and not just training, but when they take it into their personal lives, they really start to change everything because of jiu-jitsu, man. They're some of the most peaceful, happiest, most well-in-tune people I've ever met.
Me too, man. Me too. Yeah, it's done so much for my life. I know for you, I'm sure the same. For me, it's it's made me more peaceful, maybe more humble, and it's taught me most things. Most things I know, other than like factual stuff. It's taught me a lot of life lessons.
Yeah, was it? I think it was Anton Garcia that said, you'll see a lot more philosophy on the mats than you'll ever see in a university. I think that was Henzo that said something like that.
I believe so.
I think that's true 100%. It's hard to see when you're not in the situation. You said something like on your podcast with Steven, it kind of just looks like a bunch of guys rolling around in their pajamas or wrestling in their pajamas, right? But when you really open your eyes and when you really think about everything that jiu-jitsu has to offer, man, it can really change your life. And it has changed so many lives. It's changed my life for sure, and like you said, it's changed your life, man. I think about things so differently, from the way I eat, you know, how I get angry, just how I look at the world in general, man. And you'll see, and it's more, a lot of it is, yes, because of, like, a lot of it is a direct result of things you see on the mat. Like, like, for example, I used to get so angry, and a lot of people will say the same thing. You'll calm down so much after jiu-jitsu, and I just remember, man, I get so mad at people on the road, or just people that, for one reason or another, get into an argument or something. I just get so mad, I'd be ready to fight this person and do talk big game and do all that, and then after jiu-jitsu, one thing is, when you really realize how dangerous a fight is, you don't want to get in that fight, man. I'd rather just train. I would never want to get into a street fight.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is, a lot of us that know how to fight, are familiar with the combat, we're not particularly scared of it, right? So we don't feel like we need to escalate either. We're very comfortable de-escalating it. And
mm-hmm.
And Holland gave an example yesterday during the seminar. He was, funny enough, right outside his academy in California, and he was approached by this guy, and he avoided it at all costs, man. He ended up walking backwards like half the parking lot just to avoid the fight, and then when he realized, what, this isn't gonna work, boom, went for the takedown, mount, and I think he said the guy, he did a clinch. The guy ended up throwing a haymaker, I think, and he went straight to the clinch, leg hook takedown, and he said there's two ways of doing a leg hook takedown, right? When you're with your training partners, you kind of guide them down, but when it's a street fight, it's very different. You just let them crash down, and he said that guy was knocked out before. As soon as he hit the ground, he was knocked out.
It's a bad person to pick a fight with.
yeah, man. But think about that. Of all the people, you end up starting a fight with Holland Gracie. So he said, it was funny. He said, thank God I do jiu-jitsu. He's a black belt. Stood up, walked away, went to dinner with his friends, and that was that, man. Didn't have to throw a punch. Didn't take any damage. And yeah, that's the beauty of it. One of the many beauties of it.
One of my first martial arts instructors, this was back when I was learning the deadly arts of ninjutsu. When I first started martial arts, that's why, like the invisibility tricks that I have, like, my favorite move when I take the back, but then I turn invisible for 5 seconds, and then you're like, holy shit, where'd he go? And then that one. That's from ninjutsu. But yeah, back my ninjutsu instructor was awesome. Leonard Pollard is his name. Mike knows him too, actually. Mike, in Mike's ninjutsu pass that he likes to keep a secret.
Mike Stewart.
Mike
right?
Stewart, yeah.
Yeah.
He knows Leonard. But anyway, Leonard is a great teacher in my opinion, of martial arts. Like, if Leonard had taught Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he would have been producing some world champions.
Great.
But anyway, one thing he told me, which sticks in my mind, amongst other things he said, was the beginner level self-defense is when you can defend yourself. The next level, the advanced level, is when you can defend yourself and also defend people around you. Like, you can defend yourself and you can also defend your family or your friends. Like, if you all get attacked, you can take care of everyone. Yeah. And then the true master can take care of everyone and also the attacker. So that, what you just said with Holland reminded me of that, because that's the mark of a true master, in my opinion, is like not only did he defend himself, but he also inflicted as little damage as possible. I'm sure the guy was hurt, but like he didn't keep fighting him. He was just like, oh, he's out, all right, cool, on with my day. That's it.
I mean, and let's just say maybe the guy got a concussion or whatever, his head hit the ground, but imagine if it was someone else that
it's how people die.
Yeah, exactly. He could have very well picked a fight with the wrong person, and that guy just smashed his his nose, his eyes, his head in, and it's easy to get damage that's irreversible.
Maybe I was wrong. Maybe thank God that he picked a fight with Hall and Gracie. Like if he was good, he didn't kill him.
Actually, I think Henner said something like that a while back. He said something like, honestly, we're the someone who would pick a fight with us, they'd be one of the luckiest people in the world, because we wouldn't hurt them, because they're such experts at that self-defense aspect of it. It's funny when you've never trained, it's so easy to discount some moves, or with any martial art really, and say, oh, I'll just do this, I'll just do that. But man, when you train, when you see how easy it is for someone who has even just a little bit of training to negate all of another person's attacks and movements, man. Yeah, Henner said, yeah, when you fight me, you'll never get hurt. And that's very true.
I believe it. I've seen him roll, and I believe it. Very smooth, very excellent, world-class technique.
Yeah.
What are some other ways jiu-jitsu's impacted your life? Like, what keeps you coming back every day to train? One thing that's definitely undeniable is like we were talking about earlier, was the connections. I'm a very connection-based person. I love connecting with people, and some of the most amazing people I've met in my life are through jiu-jitsu. Some of the strongest relationships I have, besides the ones that I've had, growing up with my closest friends back home. But yeah, I mean, just think about all the people that are in my life now. Even you, man. I mean, we haven't seen each other in a while, and we still, when we talk, we have like good conversations, and it's like we just saw each other yesterday, Mm-hmm.
And you'll meet some of the most beautiful people that have really struggled when you go to jiu-jitsu. And I think it's because maybe a lot of us, in one way or another, are looking for something when we go to jiu-jitsu, right? So maybe we all start because of some external reason, like physical fitness or wanting to defend myself. But really, we're really searching for a lot more, I think, and connection is one of them. I talk to say Mike Johnson like all the time, man. He's one of my favorite people in the world to joke around with, just mess around with.
You guys have some awesome Facebook troll wars, for lack of a better word.
I've gotten better. He definitely kills me most of the time, but I've gotten better. But other than that, like let's say, for example, Diego. Diego, right?
Yeah.
Man, same thing. He's one of the most deepest person I've ever met, man. He's an awesome writer. He has so many thoughts. And same thing with Jen, the instructor for the women's class. Yulia, I don't think you've met them yet, but Yulia and Jeff, Jeff is Mike Johnson's best friend, and they've been training for a little bit now. And man, just honestly good people with a lot of substance, a lot of things to say, a lot of things to learn from. And even people that you don't see on a regular basis, but let's say like mentors who, like in the bigger stage of jiu-jitsu, right? So you'll, like, I'd say Holland or Andre Galvao, Henry Akins, Anton Garcia, just a bunch of different people, like Dean Lister, man. You have so many things you can learn from all these people that even if you don't see them personally, if you don't know them personally, they have so much to say that just makes sense to you because you train and you understand the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And not too long ago, Alex Stewart, black belt from the Gracie Academy in Torrance, he was in a podcast. I forgot the name, which isn't as good as Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, a few of them are.
Yeah, but
Just kidding.
he was on a podcast when he was talking about some very real and personal issues he had, with I don't want to give out too much information, but you can check it out if you want to. But he's talking about his trauma and his mental issues and all that, and a lot of that stuff, I believe, he's able to be so honest with and really connect with because he trains. He's so vulnerable with it, and a lot of what he said, it connected with me. It made so much sense to me. So I reached out to him. I messaged him on Facebook, and we messaged back and forth for a bit. And he ended up giving me his number. He said, just call me if you have any questions, you want to talk about something here and there. And that's amazing,
Yeah.
So that's something amazing that jiu-jitsu gives back. This guy I've never met. Well, I've seen him in Torrance. I never met him, but it's for him to be so vulnerable and to want to genuinely help someone he's never met, and you'll see that all over with jiu-jitsu. When you ask higher ranked people for help, man, they're so willing to help you out with anything.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that's one big thing that really keeps me involved.
I think it's because we're all like-minded individuals, and at heart we're all nerds. Like, we're all such nerds about this jiu-jitsu martial art thing, and I think that you combine that with the humility, because
exactly
that's like. I hate to say it, I know like Eddie Bravo has said before, like, jiu-jitsu's a douchebag filter and all this and that, and I don't know, I've met some douchebags in jiu-jitsu for sure. Exactly. So I don't know, I've met some black belts who I'm like, I don't know, we're not going to be friends, that's cool. But I think it's hard to not learn humility, because you get beat up every single day coming up through the ranks and coming up through the skill, and it takes so long to get good. And people who don't know about jiu-jitsu think that we sound crazy. We sound like members of a cult,
Exactly, yeah.
And
it's true.
But it's true. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and I think it teaches you a lot about yourself, and certainly has taught me a lot about myself.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, you're right about that. I think it's a very good mirror, right? And that whole thing about you've met some jiu-jitsu people or black belts or whatever that are still douchebags,
somehow.
Right, and it's because I think it's a mirror, but not a lot of people are ready to look at that mirror, right? Or a lot of people maybe look at the mirror when they're white belts and then just turn around and forget about the mirror, right? So it's definitely a vehicle that can get you to be a significantly better version of yourself, but you have to be willing. You have to be able to get to the mental side of jiu-jitsu, right? Rather than just the physicality of it, which is very, very, very good. But there's something I read from an article recently, that there was a psychologist, and I think he was talking about jiu-jitsu, and he says, where was that? Yeah, failing at something acts to demonstrate limitations, to force us to rethink or reevaluate how we do things and learn how to do them better. And that's very true in jiu-jitsu, man. When I was a white belt, when I was 1 stripe, 2 stripe, 3 stripe, 4 stripe, and even now as a blue belt, man, you ask yourself all the time, how am I getting beat up so much? He's like, you say, oh my God, how could there be so much I don't know about my own body? When you're rolling and sparring with someone better? You know, how are my movements? You know, my pushing, my pulling, my grabbing, squeezing. How can all of this be so useless against someone? You know, how can someone just take me down, control me, finish the fight so freaking easily? You know, how am I failing so much? And when you really look at that, you know, when you really look at that and take it in all aspects of your life, you can see that, you know, not only maybe are we inefficient with our bodies, or not just inefficient, but how we're lacking so much knowledge with our bodies, but we're also lacking knowledge in our minds, right? So when you really let jiu-jitsu change your mind, you know, the way you view the world, that's where I think a lot of the changes, and I think some people forget that, and that's where you say, you know, the ego comes back. You know, you get better, you start beating the people up, you know, you start submitting people here and there, and then all of a sudden, man, you're the man again. You know, you don't have to look at yourself anymore and have these real conversations with yourself. You know, like, what am I doing wrong, this and that, unless you seek out those people that are still better than you.
Yeah. That's kind of my theory on why there are some people who are like pretty high level in jiu-jitsu, but they're not the nicest people, or not even that. That's such a generic statement for me to be like, oh, they're douchebags. Like, I don't know. Like, it's such a generic thing to say. I don't know. People who have not like achieved this same level of like love and humility that we see, and we were just talking about, people who like seem to us like they have not achieved that in our limited opinions about them. But anyway, so that's kind of a philosophical disclaimer there. But so why are they not like that? I think it's because they, like you mentioned, it's almost like they're too good. They're too good at the beginning. Like sometimes when a beginner comes in and they're doing really well, like maybe they're really strong, you know, strong, because there's people who like are really strong and really athletic, and they just learn really fast.
Exactly. Yeah,
and whenever someone comes in like that and they're just a natural, I'm like, oh man, sucks for you, man. Like, you're gonna miss out on this whole humility thing, because right away they're like, oh, I'm pretty good. Or like a lot of wrestlers who are really good at like learning jiu-jitsu. Not all wrestlers, of course, but just people who are wrestlers who are really good at wrestling, and then they come to jiu-jitsu and they start to learn that, and they're like, yeah, I'm pretty good. You know, and they are pretty good. It's almost like that is the person. It's obviously not a direct correlation between that person becoming a douchebag, but like, I feel like those are the people who are more susceptible to that, and it's almost like they didn't get their ass kicked enough, and and it's tough because like you said, they need to seek out those people who are better than them, but what's the incentive, you know? And that's one of the things that I'm very interested in, actually, especially like with this podcast and other projects that I have in the works. But like, how do you help people who do not have people who are way better than them, you know? How do those people get the same benefits?
And you got to realize too, man, some people really aren't just able to take a good look at themselves. You know? Like I said, I mean, I've taken the benefit, and I love that I see that benefit of it. But you know, I still see people, unfortunately, that, you know, you see it in everything that they do on the mats. You know, when they can't correct them, you know, or they'll correct everyone.
Yeah.
They just make no mistakes, or it was the drilling partner's fault. I couldn't get this right, or your foot was in the wrong place. That's why I couldn't do this. You know, you really have to let go of your ego. You have to do it for yourself. You know, and unfortunately, for some people, even with jiu-jitsu, they won't be able to let go of that ego, because it's hard, you know, it's hard for people to make an honest assessment of who they are, you know, analyze it, figure out how they can improve upon it without judgment, right? So some people will go through their whole lives without even scratching the surface of introspection, right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Some of the most introspective moments I've had are after jiu-jitsu and after getting my ass kicked for hours, and I've learned to treasure those moments.
Yeah, you learn about yourself, man. You really do. It's not, it's hard for some people to really get that. I think we kind of sound, to some people that have no idea what we're talking about, we sound like this kumbaya, like you said, cult group that's talking about peace and all that. But to me, man, it's very tangible. It's very real. That good look in the mirror that I get, that, I ask myself all the time, what else do I not know? What else do I not know about myself? What else do I not know about my life? Or, how many things in my life are because that's what was given, that's what's normal, or perceived to be normal. Because if you look at, and like as a jiu-jitsu parallel, if you look at someone who's never trained before, right, and they step into the mats, it's unnatural for them, right? It's unnatural for them to shrimp or stand up in base, or to, just all these movements. You can use them. You can name 1,000 different techniques or positions. That's just so unnatural for them. But now, let's say to you, to I, or to black belts, anybody that's trained regularly, these are all now natural. It's unnatural to stand not in base.
Yeah, exactly.
It's unnatural for someone to have their arm around your neck and not wanting to do something about it.
Yeah.
It's unnatural to have someone just be behind you. And it's the same thing, I think, for a lot of aspects of our lives that we don't look at. We just take these things to be normal. The TV shows we watch, the food we eat, and like, I don't want to get too like philosophical or whatever.
Oh, let's get philosophical.
Yeah, but like let's say like the food industry, man. Like we've had this conversation where we both, before we started jiu-jitsu, I've struggled a long time with my weight. I grew up in a Filipino family and culture where everything is centered around food.
Right.
Eat a lot, eat as much as you can, feast. And my growing up, my indicator to stop eating was when my stomach hurt. When I physically couldn't take anymore, and that was my norm.
Yeah,
that was my norm. I didn't have a role model growing up to say, there's a different way of eating, or that's not what food's about. It's kind of a fuel, and I had to actively search that out myself. I had to humble myself enough to say, I want more. I don't want to get tired after freaking just jogging after 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't want to be able to not climb stairs without feeling like I'm dying. I smoke regularly and all that, and I sought that out for myself. I really humbled myself, and even to this day, I'll text Mike Johnson, hey, what you have for breakfast? What's your split like? If you're familiar with nutrition, what's your protein, carb, and fat split like?
Yeah.
And why do you do it like this? Or, why do you change your workout routines to this? Man, there's like a million different things you can look at differently because of jiu-jitsu if you allow that change.
For those listening to this podcast who don't know Mike Johnson, swole dude. Swole.
Yeah. Yeah. He's our resident black belt, a Pedro Sauer black belt, who's a really good guy, really knowledgeable. He's a lieutenant with a local police department, and someone I really look up to, man. I make fun of him a lot. We have that kind of relationship where we just joke around a lot and kind of just bust each other's balls all the time. But I have a really good respect for him. I see him as a mentor. I ask him just different things, man. Food, training, mindset, and we don't agree on every single thing, but we're honest with each other. Because I'm sure in the same way I've asked myself these questions, he's asked himself questions about himself. So he knows, at least for himself, what he's decided on.
Mike Johnson, to be featured on a podcast in the near future. So listeners of Trek Jitsu, beware, or look forward to. Yeah, he's the man. And there's a lot of people like that who I really look up to. And
who do you look up to in the jiu-jitsu community?
I look up to so many people. I look up to everyone. That's kind of my thing. Is like,
really,
I feel like my philosophy on like fighters or famous fighters is like I really look up to their techniques and their technical style, but I don't know them personally. I mean, the ones who I've met, I look up to, like Dean. Dean's great. He's the man. And but I've met him, so I can tangibly look up to him, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't understand when people like have a favorite. I get having a favorite fighter or having a favorite jiu-jitsu guy. Like people are like, oh man, my favorite fighter is John Jones. I look up to that guy so much. Or my favorite fighter is, you know, Daniel Cormier or whoever. I look up to that guy, and I think like I'm a huge fan of their style and their jiu-jitsu or their technique. But I don't know them, you know, or people who look up to like Ronda Rousey. I love her technique. I look up to her judo, but I don't know her, you know. So for me, it's all like I try to have role models of people who I met, and I also really like people who I can relate to. And again, that's like my whole reason for wanting to do the Trek Jitsu podcast is getting opinions from a lot of people from all over the world, people who I can relate with in a way. And I think that's so much more important. Like I've listened to so many jiu-jitsu podcasts and so many MMA podcasts, and this is maybe me going on a little tangent, but they're like, let's interview this world champion or that world champion. And then you listen to them and they're like, yeah, I train 4 times a day. You know, my strength and conditioning looks like this, you know, I fought this guy. It was tough, you know, and it's great. It's very interesting. I love it. It's awesome. But I want to hear from people who I can relate with. And so those are the people who I look up to. Like, for example, my coach right now, Renee at Matrix Jiu-Jitsu here in Kaiserslautern in Germany, he's the man. And he's probably listening to this, and he probably just shook his head at this moment of the podcast. but he's the man. And one of the things that he's taught me lately is isolating, like figuring out which techniques are the most effective. And he preaches all the time, like, find the techniques that will work on the highest levels. Find the technique that will work not just on the white belt and the blue belt, but the world champion, you know, or the guy who is like, we have 2 guys who are going to Abu Dhabi trials in a few weeks. So they're monsters. And his criteria for a move, he says, does it work on them? Like, if it doesn't work on them, he's like, forget about it. Don't even use it. So for him, and before I came to his gym, like a lot of my favorite moves, I'm just getting rid of them. Like, because of his, like, he doesn't like De La Hiva guard, for example, for that reason, because he says like, De La Hiva guard is stupid. Like, it doesn't work. Like, it only works in the gi at the very, like, if you are like a master at that position. And even then, if the other guy is a master at getting out of it, it's done. Like, if they know what you're doing and they know how it all works, I mean, I'm sure some world champion would disagree with me or disagree with him, but like, he doesn't like it because he says it's too complicated. It's too many grips. It only works in the gi, and it's easy to get out of if you're not a master. So he's like, get rid of it. Don't use it. He loves X guard, the X guard or single leg X guard, things like that, or butterfly guard or close guard. You know, things that will work at at every single level. And so that's the type of advice that I kind of look up to, is someone who has been where I've been and, you know, I guess knows me and knows my style.
Right.
Sorry, I just went on like a rant there.
No, that was good.
But yeah, those are the people who I try to look up to. And I think that Mike Johnson is a great role model for all of us. All of us humans. But
if
certainly for me.
A little more.
Yeah. Certainly for me and for you.
Yeah, man. Oh, I was saying, if only he lifted a little more. then he would be amazing.
Maybe if he had like 5 more pounds on his bench press, he would finally be at that level. Yeah. We'll see. Anyway, thanks so much for doing this show, man. I gotta get going.
Thank you, man.
Is there anything you want to promote, or anything that comes to mind?
No, just start jiu-jitsu if you haven't. Keep training. Definitely keep training, man. Definitely keep training. And when are you coming back anytime soon?
Not anytime soon, but hopefully in the future. I do not have a trip scheduled at this time, but maybe I don't know, to be announced. Cool. We'll see. I'm quite busy at the moment with a lot of things, but hopefully soon. Hopefully I will be making my return to the United States eventually.
Definitely looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, man. And everyone listening, thanks for listening. You guys are great.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Anton for being on the show. That was great. It was a really great conversation. I had a lot of fun, nerding out a little bit. And I hope you guys listening, I hope you enjoyed the show as well. Please visit trekjitsu.com for all of the show notes, for links and notes and information about everything that we talked about in this episode. And please check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and on the Instagrams. Everywhere you look, just search Trek Jitsu and you'll find it, except for the Twitterverse. On the Twitterverse, we are Trek Jitsu Pod. So search Trek Jitsu Pod. I don't know who. Someone stole Trek Jitsu. Probably me in a past life when Twitter was maybe like some sort of caveman version of Twitter, and they stole it. So who knows? Great mystery. But Trek Jitsu Pod on Twitter. So please go to iTunes if you enjoyed this. Give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps the podcast a lot, and it's cheap, it's easy, it's free, and great way to support the show. So check us out on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever it is you're listening to this podcast right now. That's a great place to keep checking out for new episodes. And thanks again to Waves Overhead. Again, go to bandcamp.com/wavesoverhead.com. You can find that link on trekjitsu.com and wherever else you find this podcast. Please check them out. Download their music. Send them some money. Send them some love. Send them some spiritual wisdom. You know, just think they are you living another life. That life is more musical, unless you're a musician, you know, but that life is very musical for them. And if you were doing that, if you were making great music and putting it on podcasts for free, you know, then please, you would want some money. So please support yourself making music, living another life. So thank you to them. Thank you to you for listening. And now I'm going to put on Waves Overhead song to make amends. So I hope you guys enjoy that. If you do, again, check them out.
Give us another